You know that feeling, right? You build this script, it feels absolutely brilliant at first, but then it just becomes a tangled mess. Well, today, we're moving past that. We're going to talk about building tools that have a real brain, tools that can actually learn, adapt, and handle the messiness of the real world. Okay, let's get into it. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at why the old way of doing things is just hitting a hard limit. Then we'll dive into the big shift over to AI, lay out a blueprint for how to actually build an intelligent system, and get into the nitty-gritty decisions that take a simple script and turn it into a pro-level tool. And finally, we'll zoom out and see what this all means for the future. All right, first up, old automation hits a wall. We're going to explore why the stuff we've been relying on for years just isn't cutting it anymore in this crazy complex world. I mean, you've probably asked yourself this a million times. You set up some automation to sort your files, and it works, kind of. But the second a file is named a little differently or an email doesn't look exactly right, the whole thing just grinds to a halt. It feels brittle because, well, it is. And you know what? The data totally backs this up. These traditional rule-based systems, they hit this thing called an effectiveness plateau. Basically, they can only handle about 75 to 85% of what you throw at them. That other 15 to 25%, that's the real world. That's the messy, unpredictable stuff where these old systems just completely fall on their face. So here are the core problems, right? The systems are super rigid by design. They can't handle anything new, and they definitely can't learn. And as you keep adding more and more rules to patch things up, they become an absolute nightmare to maintain. And get this, one analysis found their performance can actually get worse by about 8% every single year if you're not constantly tweaking them. It's a losing battle. So if the old way is a dead end, where do we go from here? This brings us to the really exciting part, the huge shift toward adaptive AI. We're talking about moving from just blindly following a list of rules to actually understanding the context of what's going on. And the difference is just night and day. A rule-based system needs an explicit, step-by-step instruction for everything. But an AI-powered system, it can figure out what you meant to do. It doesn't need a rule for every single scenario, because it's great at recognizing patterns. So while the old system chokes on anything ambiguous, the AI system can handle nuanced judgment. It's really the difference between a static calculator and an adaptive partner. Let's make this real for a second. Imagine you've got a file named Q3 Financial Review Report.docx. A basic system might see .docx and just dump it in a generic documents folder. But an AI thinks differently. It actually analyzes the name. It infers that financial, review, and report are the key ideas here. It contextualizes it, knowing it's a business doc. And then it makes a much, much smarter decision, sorting it right into financial reports. See? That's real judgment in action. Okay, so we're sold on AI-powered systems. But how do we build one that doesn't just become the next generation of tangled mess? It all comes down to the architecture. Let's look at the blueprint for an AI brain that's actually designed to last. The number one rule is using a modular architecture. Seriously, think of it like building with Legos instead of trying to carve a statue out of a giant block of marble. When your code is broken down into these small, independent blocks, it's way easier to read, to update, and to reuse. You can just swap one piece out without the whole thing crumbling down. And to make our Lego structure truly flexible, we use something called the strategy pattern. The main idea here is that it lets you define different tasks or strategies that you can swap in and out whenever you want without ever touching the core engine. Let's say you want to add a new way to process invoices. You just create a new invoice strategy and plug it right in. It makes your app incredibly easy to grow and expand over time. So we have the blueprint. How do we turn it into a real professional tool? A great design is one thing, but the actual parts you build with are just as critical. Let's dig into the key decisions that elevate a simple script into a pro-level application. First up, the AI engine itself. You've got options like Ollama and Llama CPP Python, and a great way to think about it is like macOS versus Linux. Ollama is your macOS. It's super easy to use, beautiful, and perfect for getting something up and running fast. Llama CPP Python, on the other hand, is Linux. It gives you absolute control and lets you squeeze every last drop of performance out of your hardware. For a pro tool, that level of control is often a must-have. And the numbers don't lie. Look at this benchmark. Llama.cpp is processing almost twice as many tokens per second as Ollama on the exact same machine. When your user is sitting there waiting for a task to finish, that speed difference is everything. It's the difference between an app that feels snappy and one that just feels slow. Okay, now let's talk about something really important: building for when things go wrong. When you're starting out, you might just do this: a simple print statement. File processed. We've all done it, and it's fine for a quick test, but it's totally useless when something breaks a week from now and you have no idea why. The pro approach is structured logging. Instead of some vague message, you output this rich, data-filled object. It's got a timestamp, a severity level, the message, and all this crucial context like the file path and the category it was assigned. So now if something fails, you know exactly what happened, where it happened, and when it happened. It's a lifesaver. And this is all part of using proper logging levels. You don't need to see every single detail in production, so you might set the level to info. But when you're trying to hunt down a bug, you can flip it to debug and get all the granular data you could ever need. It's all about getting the right information at the right time. And finally, how does a person actually use this powerful engine we've built? The user interface. Yeah, you could use something simple like Tickinger, but let's be honest, it often looks pretty dated. For an application you want people to trust and maybe even pay for, you need a modern, polished look. That's what frameworks like PyQt or PySide come in. They're batteries included, giving you everything you need to build a truly high-quality experience. So let's pull all these threads together and look at the bigger picture here. We are really entering a brand new chapter in automation, and understanding these ideas is going to be key to being a part of it. So what are the big takeaways here? 1. Old rule-based automation is fundamentally limited. It's hit a wall. 2. AI isn't just a small upgrade. It's a totally different and more powerful way to solve problems. 3. Architecture is everything. You absolutely have to design for the future. And finally, building pro tools means using pro practices, from logging to the UI, and making smart choices that balance ease of use with raw performance. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. For decades, we've built tools that just followed our instructions to the letter. But now, we're building tools that can understand our intent, that can learn, and that can adapt. So the real question is, if our tools are getting that much smarter, what does that mean for the future of the work that we do?